It was the early 1960s, in the backwoods of Livingston Parish, just a stone's throw from the town of Walker. A small oil recycling facility was fired up on a 6-acre site. The goal? Take waste oil, perform minimal refining, market the recycled material as fuel oil. What seemed like a good idea at the time, over the next 2 decades festered into a nightmare, affecting the health and quality of life of thousands of area citizens. The Dubose Oil Company had a laudable goal: recycle waste oil into a usable product. And with the nation enduring an oil embargo, it was also good business. Unhampered by today's stringent environmental regulations, the site became active and profitable. In time, however, the oil embargo was lifted, and the demand for recycled petroleum products fell.
As a result of that, the company fell on hard times, but it had been placed on the map as being a place you could bring your waste materials, your waste oil, and that continued. But not having a market for the recycled oil, the facility grew by digging more pits, open air pits, just in the ground, not properly lined, not clay lined, not lined with anything other than just a soil. Some of that product seeped into the soil. There was nothing to stop it from doing that. And then, of course, we have torrential rains on occasion, and the product would overflow. The pits would overflow, and the product would leave the confinement of the pits.
Hazardous waste literally poured into the site, brought in by tanker trucks around the clock. Fires broke out at the site. Neighbors complained about the overflow during rainstorms and resultant fish kills. They continued to complain after Combustion Incorporated became the new owner in the 1970s about the smoke, the odors, the dredge of waste oil, and the chemicals collecting in ponds, seeping into the soil, threatening the drinking water. Property values plummeted.
And they, of course, did not have at their disposal the regulations that we have today with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Environmental Quality, which is all in place. And so they were pretty much hamstrung as to what they could do. So as a result of that, the complaints continued, and we were contacted by a group of citizens wanting to bring a civil action, which is what my law firm did.
The site was found to be contaminated with mercury, lead, PCBs, and other highly lethal toxic wastes. Protesting in Baton Rouge in front of oil and chemical company headquarters, vocal area residents demanded that the companies take responsibility for cleaning up their environmental mess. On the legal front, the class action suit wound its way through a maze of state and federal courts. It targeted not just Combustion Incorporated, but more than 300 companies, a literal Fortune 500 list that included companies that manufactured, owned, or transported toxic waste to the site. All of them, by law, were legally responsible for disposing of wastes in an environmentally sound manner.
The law said they were responsible from cradle to grave. It was built into the statute. But yes, it was very significant. And it was to put people on notice that, you know, if you're going to use this type of hazardous waste, this type of hazardous substance, and it becomes waste, then you have to be responsible.
In the end, more than 10,000 plaintiffs completed forms indicating they suffered some kind of damage.
Well, the allegations and the complaints range from rashes to cancer, everything in between. I mean everything.
Finally, after years of environmental damage, cleanup began. Combustion Incorporated qualified for federal Superfund status under a national program designed to clean up the nation's worst abandoned hazardous waste sites. 234 million tons of contaminated oil and wastewater and 35,000 tons of hazardous sludge and toxic sludge were scraped and hauled from the site over a 1-year period. Contractors also removed 12 underground tanks, 18 above-ground tanks, and tons of pipes that fed the pits. The price tag was $12 million. In 1993, the case was moved to the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Louisiana and assigned to Judge Richard T. Hike Sr. The judge put the case on the fast track, established strict pretrial deadlines, and appointed Patrick Juneau of Lafayette as special master to mediate settlement conferences among the multitude of parties.
We're dealing with literally thousands of people, but hundreds of defendants
and you can imagine the complexity of.
In the end, the settlements with plaintiffs totaled approximately $130 million. After years of litigation, the case was finally drawing to a close. Judge Hike, however, recognized that Livingston Parish as a whole had been damaged by the environmental insult and determined that some residual funds, approximately $4.5 million, should be set aside for the people of the parish.
It's part of the process that Congress said you can set it aside for the benefit of the community as a whole in case there's a community catastrophe. And I think it's a good thing to do on behalf of the community.
Judge Hike entertained several proposals on how the residual funds could be used for the greater good. The one that caught his eye was a plan from Southeastern Louisiana University and the Livingston Parish school system to create a jointly operated center focusing on literacy, technology, and the environment.
We did some research here at Southeastern and learned that indeed there was a lot of need there. Livingston was a very fast-growing area, Livingston Parish was, and Southeastern was a very fast-growing university. We both had excellence in mind, and the judge had fairness, insurance for the future, and he was, of course, concerned about the people that he was obligated to be concerned about.
There was a concept that they wanted something that would last in perpetuity, not necessarily a memorial, but facility programs that would be there forever and remind people of what had come out of the Combustion, Inc. settlement. Two, there was a desire to have a strong education piece in that.
A proactive board, I think that they could understand what the long-term benefits for the residents of Livingston Parish as well as the surrounding communities could have. So they were very excited, very approachable, very amenable to looking and trying to even find some resources to put into this project.
The judge was impressed that the proposed new center would help fill education gaps in Livingston Parish. In Judge Hike's view, education is a fundamental cure for numerous social ails, including poverty and crime.
Anybody that knows Judge Hike knows that easy is not his first choice. An easy way out is not part of his vocabulary. He's thoughtful. He understands the value of education. He's perhaps the most courageous individual that I think I've ever dealt with when it comes to ruling from the bench.
The Livingston Parish Literacy and Technology Center is the culmination of Judge Hike's vision, a perpetual reminder of the harm inflicted on Livingston Parish, of the fragility of the environment, and of the life-enriching gift of education.
Tremendous beneficial effects, not just for 1 month, 2 months. It's not a temporary building, it's not an automobile. It's something that impacts the educational community maybe for centuries beyond our lifetime.
Certainly was an ingenious idea to come up with the collaboration between us and Southeastern to provide an opportunity for the community, Livingston Parish, to have a facility like this that can be used in many different facets and walks of life.
We're going to train and have the local citizens through these programs available for immediate employment in Livingston Parish. So that is going to be a strong positive for the students who complete these programs.
You know, the whole saying is you can give a person a fish and he can eat for a day. You teach him how to fish and he can feed himself for life. And that education is that fish. Education is the thing that drives all of us.
The plaintiffs who were most affected not only received monetary compensation, but they received opportunities for themselves, their children, their children's children, and the entire community of Livingston Parish. That's a gift that will just keep on giving.